Hello, welcome back to All for United WFC. No stuttered intro for me this time. Straight in. My laptop is repaired for the time being. So fingers crossed, nothing goes wrong for the foreseeable, I hope, considering how much this has cost to repair. I'm joined. We were supposed to do obviously a show yesterday. Things got postponed, but for the better, really, because I've got my laptop back. So that's worked in our favour. The usual Monday crew, now Tuesday. Barry and Charlie, and our special guest for... Is it this evening, this afternoon, whatever it is? Graham, thanks for joining us. For people who don't know who you are, why are you here, basically? What got you to this point? What got you involved in women's football and reporting on? Obviously, now there's a lot of transfer links and all things like
that. The short answer is, I just love football, I guess. I started watching women's football about 2017, I think. But obviously, I was born in 1986. I know I look like I'm 21. I'm not. Unfortunately, I'm 36, 37 next year. I'm a massive, massive Sunderland fan, which I'm very proud of. And you can probably tell by the accent. And I went to watch Sunderland Women one day. Loved it. Thought, oh, well, fair enough. There we go. And then, lo and behold, about 3-4 years ago, I qualified as a sports journalist and have just kind of continued to grow with the women's game, I think, because I think it's more interesting, if I'm honest. Don't get me wrong, I love my men's football, but after I qualified as a journalist, I thought the stories and the stuff that was involved with women's football was great. I've been really, really lucky that a lot of people have trusted me to cover games, to do podcasts with players and obviously make connections. And then on my weekend, I work for the women's team I support, which is Glasgow City, which is where I'm based. So I do that on the weekend because I love it. I do that voluntarily. And then I work for National World / the Scotsman during the week. And I've been doing a lot with Manchester World at the moment, which is something that I've really enjoyed. So I've covered Man United and Man City for, I think, since about September time. So we'll say most of the season, and been lucky enough to be invited into press conferences and speak to Marc on for a long period. And I've really enjoyed it. From a Manchester United perspective, no offense to Man City at all, I've enjoyed that as well. But I've really enjoyed getting involved with Man United. The fan base seems to be really passionate, which is obviously something that I enjoy from a perspective of covering the game, because people are as passionate as I am. I like writing about it, and hopefully they enjoy my stuff. And I think the way football works these days and the way that women's football is getting, transfers are becoming really important, and it's something I'm really interested in. So it's something I'll, a journalist should, I guess, chase the stories and hopefully get something that's of interest. But yeah, I've really enjoyed covering Manchester United the past sort of 3-4 months, and I travel from Glasgow on a bi-weekly basis and really, really enjoy it. So, but pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me. By the way, massively appreciate it.
No problem at all. There's a lot of love for you in the chat already, which is great to see from Lanzal and from Mike, and hello to everyone else who's in the comments as well, John and TJ and Sang and Sarah and everyone else that I forgot to shout out. But thanks everyone for joining us. I will set a little challenge though. Graham, you didn't mention it in your little thing, and I didn't mention it in the intro either. You are a Netflix superstar. I said I was going to say it, and I have said it. Can anyone guess what show Graham was on Netflix? Because it is out there and you can watch it. Obviously, panel it. Charlie and Barry, you can't vote because you are well aware of what it is. And Graham, obviously, because you're in it. But I'll leave that to the comments for the next few minutes to see if anyone can work out what the Netflix show was.
Should I pull my face just so you can maybe...
I was going to say there's a lean back one as well, isn't there? Way.
Yes. Bonus points if you can tell what I'm thinking or the words that I'm saying in my head.
Well, I can confirm I've just finished watching the Harry and Meghan documentary, and it's not that, so that's one less for people to worry about.
No. I've been saved the ire of Jeremy Clarkson, thank God.
Yes, that's a story in itself right now, isn't it? We will glance over that. But yes, I shall leave that to the comments for the next few minutes. There's only one place to start. Obviously, you released an article yesterday, and obviously Rob has been a friend of the channel as well, has also been very active on this particular topic, our Spanish fullback honour. I'll just give the floor to you, Graham. What's going on then? Because you threw another name into the hat. Obviously, the Barcelona rumours have always been there. Leon have kind of been always been there as well. But now Man City. What's going on there?
I think from what I know, and again, I think when it comes to transfers, anything can change. And to give people clarity, I would never I'd never take the opinion of one person or the rumor or the report from one person and run with it. I very rarely do that, even when I've got about 5 people telling me it, because I'm so terrified of getting something wrong for the fans, if I'm honest with you. But there is an interest there. The interest is relatively firm, I'm led to believe. But as I kind of said in the article yesterday, I think if you've got Lyon and Barcelona in it, again, no offense to Manchester City fans, there's no guarantee Man United are going to get in the Champions League this season. There's no guarantee that City are. So for me, I think if City are interested, they stand as much chance as Manchester United of her staying there at the moment. I'd be really, really, really surprised if she went to City. I think for me, if she went to City, it would need to be Man United not getting in the Champions League and City getting into it, and her not wanting to move away from the area. But I mean, I'm not a footballer. If Barcelona were dangled in front of me, even if it was between Sunderland, which is my club, or Glasgow City or Barcelona, I'd probably still go Barcelona. I think Barcelona, for me, if I was a Man United fan, would be the big worry. But then you've also got the caveat of, well, they've signed Lucy Bronze. I think I said it like underneath the article I posted yesterday, that I think if there's a team in Europe not interested in Ona on a free transfer, then they're going to be minimal, or they're going to be people that can't afford it. But I think City will sense an opportunity. She's better than probably every right back in the WSL, in my opinion. I think Man City obviously are ambitious. Man City have probably they've been a bigger powerhouse than Man United in the WSL for a few more years. They'll see it as someone they think they can tempt. But do I personally think they can tempt her? I think there's interest there, but I don't think so. Not if Lyon and Barcelona are interested. And I think for her to leave Man United to go to City, it would need to be, and this is just opinion, nothing I know. I think if she was to go to City, it would be a case of Man United don't get in the Champions League, Man City do, she doesn't want to leave Manchester and she wants to stay in the area. So there's a lot of things that need to fall into place for that. But are Man City interested? As far as I'm aware, and I haven't spoke to Man City or Ona, unfortunately, if she wants to, feel free. But I doubt it. City are interested. They have got an interest.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. If there's not clubs, another player, Russo, we'll get to in a moment, but if there's not clubs interested, they'd just be stupid not to, because it's a potential free transfer right here. And Charlie, you said on Twitter, if she wants to go, she can go. But do you have to make some exceptions, for a player like Ona, that we've got to push the boat out a little bit more than maybe we would? And as Graham said there, is Barcelona surely the big threat now if she is to leave, even despite the Lucy Bronze signing?
Yeah, I think if it was a straight up fight between keeping Ona or Russo, I would want to keep Ona. She'd be my main one. Obviously, we've had a really good season, but if you look at that 2 or 3 games where she wasn't playing because of concussion, we struggled, because she's such an important part of our attack, of our defensive lineup. I think she's probably more of a leader as well than people realise on the pitch and behind the scenes. But obviously, I would want the club to be doing everything they can to keep her. But I feel like with her, the impression you kind of get from her is she's very football driven and she wants to achieve things in football. So she wants to be at a club where that's going to happen, and hopefully that will be with us. But yeah, I would offer everything. I'd put her up there with Tooney. I'd be offering the same amount of money, if not a little bit more. But for me, it will always just still come down to if she wants to leave, she wants to leave. But yes, she is the one player I would be throwing everything at. Out of anyone that could leave in the summer, she's the one that I would expect we want to keep hold of the most, that I would certainly want us to as well. Yeah,
I agree. But Barry, do you think it all rests on Champions League for Ona? And Charlie mentioned there is purely, or a lot of it probably is a footballing decision for her. She's clearly driven by that side of things. A player as good as Ona cannot be in the Champions League next year. I just don't fit. She can't go another season for me not being in it. So is that, do you think, what it rests on, and why this is taking so long? That clubs are sniffing around because they sense an opportunity now, but there is still a chance that she signs if we get top 3 this season.
Possibly. I think she's happy at the club. I don't think there's any problems in that respect. It's not like we're looking at that and thinking, oh, she really wants to leave, she's not getting playing time. None of that's the problem. She knows that she's going to play. And as Charlie said, she's a leader. We saw that in the game against Sheffield United. She was given the captain's armband. So we know that she's trusted. Absolutely. I think it's really tough because we keep saying, is she going to stay if we get top 3? I suppose the key thing with that is how long do you wait before you sign that contract? Do you just, from a planning point of view as well, if you're managing a team and you've got a player there who's not willing to sign until she knows, that can be quite tricky. So I think deep down it does. I think there's no secret the fact that Ona wants to play Champions League football. And deep down, I don't think there's really that much of a secret that she wants to go back to Spain. I think Barcelona would be the main place where I think we would expect to see Ona go to. But I'm with Charlie. Everything needs to be thrown at keeping Ona, because I think when you look at all of the other positions, we're going to talk a lot about some of the people that might potentially come in. I feel like we've got good backup in pretty much all of those positions. Fullback is the one where even now we still feel like we require just a little bit more depth. I think letting Ona go just sort of accentuates that problem a bit more and makes that a little bit trickier, I think. So for me, I want Ona to stay. She should stay. I hope she stays. Please God, that would be lovely. She's the one that we want. Ona.
You managed to fit a song in there. There's a question already for yourself, Graham. I'll let you come to it. Obviously, talking about United takeover, we saw today from the men's side of things that four, was it Rashford? I know Fred was on there, Shaw, and I'm missing somebody out. Obviously, had their 1-year extension triggered. That's not possible for Ona and Russo because they don't have it, as far as I'm aware, for next summer. But do you think there is any, knock-on effects if a potential takeover? Do you think that's why these contracts have maybe stalled a little bit, or do you think that they are just waiting to see how the season plays out?
Without any knowledge, I suppose, taking in Marc's comments, I asked him about the contracts, and I named Alesia as it was at the time. And in many ways, his comments seem like a stop asking me that question, which is his right, and he does it very well, and I like him very much in the way that he speaks. But he said essentially that these things take time, and the way the game's going and the interest in it and all this kind of stuff. If you put in the takeover talk, that kind of fits in. Like, why does it take so much time? Why is it still January when she could agree pre-contract, and then she hasn't signed that contract, or there isn't one close to being agreed as far as we know? Is the takeover causing issues? Maybe. I certainly feel sorry for Marc, because I ask him questions about that sort of stuff all the time, and I don't really think it's in his hands. And I think he's doing a fantastic job. I think he's doing a great job at Man United. I think potentially it could be. I don't know anything concrete on that. But I think it naturally would, wouldn't it? I think if you have a takeover on the cards, you don't know what you're going to be able to spend. I'm not massively... I don't know too much about the Glazers, apart from that they're not great for United, as far as I can see. Do they strike me as people who would want to spend lots of money on one of their women's players when they're going through this sort of stuff? Can I be honest? No. Whether that's right or wrong doesn't really matter. That's just an opinion, like I say, but I guess so. But you could take it two ways. I feel like the way Skinner speaks, there's obviously conversations being had, but what's stopping it? That's my big issue. What's stopping it? Because now we're in January and Barca and Lyon could offer a pre-contract. That's a bit of a worry.
I just wanted to jump in quickly and say, with regards to the budget, Graham, do you not think that there is, I mean, surely that must have been pre-agreed before the season started as to how much they would have possibly till the end? So do you think they're working within that sort of restriction, and it's just if they want to go above and beyond that it could be a problem as opposed to anything else?
Possibly. I mean, I suppose if you're taking Manchester United women as a separate entity from the club entirely, which is difficult, I think Man United women don't have Champions League money at the moment, and they're not guaranteed that Champions League money. I think they'll get top three, if I'm honest with you. I think they will get it. But at this moment in time, they don't have that cash that comes from it. Or if they're looking at it separately, they don't have that overspill of cash where they want to be able to spend it on certain players. But then even then, I think for me, I agree with what you said before. I love Alesia Russo because I'm English, and she was part of the reason that I got to see my team bring home a major tournament. But do I think outside of Ella Toon, your most important players? Oh no, yeah, I do. And I think whatever that budget is, if I'm thinking from a fan's perspective, and I'm not a businessman in any way, shape, size, or form, I'm terrible at saving money, so take no financial advice from anyone listening to this. I just think she is, in my opinion, on current form, the best right back in Europe with years to grow into being better. I think if you've got any level of ambition, you want to sign it. And I know sometimes people have a go at Marc about it, but I don't think Marc's probably the one showing lack of ambition. I think if Marc could tie Alesia, trigger that extension in Mary's contract and tie down Ona at the same time, I mean, he doesn't want to start building this team and then lose his best 3 players. He doesn't even want to lose one of them. So there's something stopping it somewhere. What that may be, I don't genuinely know. The takeover question is a fair question, though, because why has Mary Earps's 1-year extension not been triggered yet?
It's a fair point. I think it all just tie in. I think you're right as well that, you know, if Marc had his way, these would have been done by now, because, you know, he doesn't want these questions in press conference. He wants to talk about the game and talk about, you know, the games coming up and things like that. He doesn't want this every single week.
No.
You mentioned Russo there, and it was actually, I've just double checked, it was yourself that released the Leon rumor back in the summer that this came out, because I remember, because we did a show on it the day after, talking about this Leon link for Russo. And obviously I think Emma Sanders had tweeted a couple of weeks before that about Russo rejecting contracts at United. Where do you think all that stands? What's going on there? Because it's the same situation with Ona, isn't it? That, you know, clubs have got to be interested because she's potentially unavailable as a free next summer. So what do you think is going to happen there from your own knowledge of what you've been told, and also your personal opinion? What do you think is going to happen with that one?
I think absolutely with Russo, I think the same. I think the one thing I think with Russo is she's a Man United fan. She's probably got a bit more patience for seeing whether it ends, where you finish at the end of the season, because she'll want to play for Manchester United at the highest level. It's just whether they'll be at the level she wants to be at. Whereas Ona, I think, would probably potentially be a Barcelona fan based on where she's from. That tugs on the heartstrings a bit. But I think first and foremost with Alesia, I don't think it's any secret that Leon are interested. I don't think anyone is surprised at that in any way, shape, size, or form. So if Leon are interested, who else is interested? You've got the likes of, you could throw in someone like maybe a Bayern Munich would maybe be interested, or something like that, or even a Wolfsburg, or even some of the WSL teams. I tweeted not that long ago, I wouldn't have been surprised if Arsenal went in with the injury to Beth Mead, and then Miedemar gets injured, but I think they might look elsewhere for that, because I think if you buy Russo in January, you're going to have to pay big bucks, even though our contract's done in 6 months. Commercially, she's worth a lot. I mean, she's the poster girl of the back heels. Makes her like valuable from a commercial perspective. So I think that she would cost a fair amount in January. And I do think the one thing I'd say with Alesia, and I said this last week on the Women's Football podcast, is, and again, I'm not a footballer, but I think when you win something, that becomes like a drug, doesn't it? And she's won one of the biggest trophies in women's football in the Euros. She's won it at 23? She's now seen as like, because I don't think there's anything like her in the WSL. I'm not saying she's the best striker, because my personal opinion is that is Viv, but who's now playing in midfield, bizarrely. But I do think that Alessia's up there with something that's different. She's probably, a presence, probably the best. Strength, maybe you could say Bonnie Shaw's maybe equal, but I think Russo's stronger, if I'm honest. And she's young and she's got room to grow. So I think there'll be clubs that are interested in her because she's commercially a dream to have because of the stuff she's done already in a really young career. She's also a great player with loads of room to grow. But I cannot see her going in January. I really can't see that happening. I think she'll wait to see what happens in the by the end of the season if they get Champions League. Because I don't think it's that impossible that Man United could get second, if I'm honest. If I'm completely honest with you, I think that, I'll tell you what I thought was massive, that win over Arsenal, not just from a perspective of it being a win over the top three. She celebrated with the fans. You've seen the reaction to it. That's a reaction of a fan scoring a goal for the club that she obviously loves and has supported all her life. But I think that was also kind of hang on a minute. Maybe we can do this. Maybe we can. And people disagreed with me. I thought Man United were the better side in the Manchester derby. If I'm completely honest with you, I thought they were. I thought the goal came from nothing, and then City came on top. I thought up to that you were relatively comfortable without being outstanding. But I think it'll come down to two things: how ambitious is Alesia, and how quickly does she want that ambition to be realised? Because I think Man United are a project. I don't think Man United are going to win the league this season. I don't know whether they'll win it next season.
Barry's not going to be happy with that.
They might, but you can't guarantee it. And you've got to look from...
Graham, sorry.
I mean... Yeah,
this is a win of the league show.
When I'm covering the club, naturally, I'd like to see one of the Manchester clubs win it because I'm fingers crossed we'll be there, and it's a nice thing to cover. And I've got so much time for Mark. I can't reiterate that enough. He said he liked my jumper once. I'm really, really cheap, as you can tell. But I think with Russo, I think it's pretty straightforward. There's going to be loads of clubs interested in her. Just commercially worth a lot. She's got room to grow. She's young. She's won something massive. She'll now want to win things. She'll want to win things with Manchester United. How quickly does she want to win them? I think she'll reassess her options in the summer. And if you're in the Champions League, you stand a lot better chance of keeping her.
I wonder about with Russo, because I've written this down here. Obviously, yes, of course there were loads of clubs interested in her, but I do wonder if, like, at this moment in time, and this isn't me downplaying her skill level, because again, obviously she's incredible, but does she walk into one of those teams and does she play every week? That would be, I don't know, I'm wondering about a Lyon where obviously you've got Hagerberg, you've got Arsenal, obviously Miedemar's injured at the moment, but you've got Blackstenius, you've got City, you've got Bunny Shaw, who I would go in for if Russo were to go, if anyone was interested, if anyone's listening. And then Paris obviously wants Katoto's back. Mm-hmm. So I would wonder with those, I don't know, I wonder if that might play a part as well. That's just me surmising. I'm just thinking at the moment, because she's gonna start for us every week, isn't she? And that's what she'll want to do as well. Because there's winning things, and then there's being a proactive, there's being a literal intricate part of a team winning things. I don't know how much that matters.
I think it will.
Which is unfortunate for me. But yeah, I'm just wondering about that as well.
No, I think I agree. I think I really, really rate her like super highly. Every time she came on the Euros, I was buzzing because I was like, brilliant. She's going to run them ragged. And I think she knew her role in the Euros. That was behind Ellen White, and Ellen White would press them and yada, yada. And then she would come on and just destroy them with her pace and her strength. Does she want to do that at club level when she's going somewhere to win trophies? Yeah, I think you've got a valid point. And would she get straight in at Lyon? I don't know. I don't 100% know that would be the case. Do I think she'd get a place at Arsenal at the minute with the injuries? Yep. I would choose her above Bunny Shaw. Sorry, City fans.
They're not watching
but the other clubs you mentioned, yeah, probably not, to be fair. I don't think she'd get in all of those teams straight away. But then again, she's confident, isn't she? She's going to think she can go to any club and get in the team. And I think just from like watching her in games, she's got that kind of swagger. So she might think she can. Yeah, I would agree with John on that she would walk into the current team with Beth Mead out and Miedemar, and she would. But then Leon's a good question though, because I couldn't get. I want to say yeah, because I want to be on her side and say yeah, she'll get in any team in the league across Europe, but you can't guarantee it, can you? Because Leon have got like so many options.
There's been like with chat with Russo as well. There's been discussion in some areas that the club aren't potentially doing enough to keep her, and I wouldn't have thought that was the case. I don't know. I wouldn't have thought that would be the case.
It's hard to get
There's only so
straight.
much you can do if a player's not signing, and if say the club's offering things and everything that's wanted, and then they come back and keep asking for more, and the club is willing. I don't know if this is the case, but I can't imagine that Man United have gone, yeah, we're going to offer you this basic thing, and that's it. If you don't want it, off you go.
No, I don't think so either. I think the same with all the players. I think, Ella Toon will be on a decent whack, I imagine, compared to what she was on previously. So I don't think it's a case of not offering good contracts. I think they know what they're worth. And commercially, like I said before, Russo's worth a lot of cash as well. So you can kind of offset that a little bit by saying, oh, well, she'll bring money in by shirt sales. I know it's not the same as like a Ronaldo, for example, but it's still in women's football. She's one of the biggest names, especially in this country. I think for me, it'll be a case of she wants to win things. She's 23. She just won potentially the second biggest trophy that she could win in her life. Manchester United, I think, as Marc has said a few times, he said, we're not done. We still want to do stuff, so on and so forth. And I agree with what Marc says. But as a player, do you want to sit and go, well, when I'm 26, I might win something, or do you want to win something at 24? And it's going to come down to that. I don't think that they won't be offering her a contract that is not worth it's not worth signing from a monetary perspective. I don't think she'll be driven by that. I don't think any of them will be driven by that, if I'm completely honest. I think it'll be driven by trophies, because we're not talking millions here. We're talking probably a good level of cash that they've been offered. I mean, I don't know, but I assume it'll be a good contract based on what they've offered Alatoon. And I don't think it'll be that that's holding them back. I think it'll be a case of Man United have never beaten a top 3 side up until this season. Now they've beaten the top 3 side. Now that throws a spanner in the works of people thinking, should I stay? Should I go? Oh, well, I probably should go because I'm not going to win anything here because we can't even beat Chelsea, Arsenal yet. Oh, hang on, we'll beat Arsenal. Oh, hold on a minute, we're third. Hang on a minute, we're second potentially. I think that's going to be what's playing in her mind as well. I don't think there's any necessary problems with... I see people online talk about problems with Marc or not being offered enough or so on and so forth. I don't think it's any of that. I agree with you 100%, Charlie, 100%.
Someone's thrown... I think it was Lanzell. Yeah, it was that maybe England selection. Obviously, Ellen White has retired from international. This you'd expect Russo to be the number 1 now, but as he said here, would she be overlooked if playing in Europe and potentially not starting every game? If she knows at United she's going to be the starter, she's going to be in the headlines, especially in this country. So that might play a factor. If she wants, obviously, the World Cup next year, obviously it's not going to make an impact for next year, but for future tournaments potentially. But I would caveat that by saying there are plenty of our English players that are abroad. Rachel Daly, obviously, prime example. I know she's back in the country now, but prime example that can do it. So that could be a factor. There's a lot of factors. I think that's the thing with transfers. People just think it's so black and white. Oh, offer them the money they sign. There's so many things. The culture. Do you want to live in Manchester for a start? When we're signing players to come here, they've got to live there. They've got to like where they're living and their surroundings. There's so much that goes into a transfer that people don't.
To be fair, the northern quarter is pretty good. That would swing me. I'm not going to lie. That would swing me. But no, you're right. There's nothing's ever black and white, and that's sometimes the hassle from like a perspective of my role and my job is that you get told one thing, but you've got to check another 5 different things because there's about 10 different versions of the story, and there's about 1 million different things you have to sift through that could affect that move, and things can change at the very last minute. For all we know, Leon could come in and be like, right, we're going to pay you £1 million a week, and she's going to take that. Regardless of all the things we've discussed before. But then again, that might never happen, and she might just stay with Manchester United. I think if we're going to look at like the logistical things behind everything you mentioned before will play into it. But I think the basic comes down to how fast can she win trophies? Can she win them at Manchester United? Is there evidence come the end of the season that can happen?
I feel like with Lessie, a lot of what we're looking at here, I think the key word really is potential. As opposed to guaranteed, because we look at some of these other players you talk about, the Mida Marker, they've proven themselves. They've proven themselves at very high levels. I think with Leslie, what we're looking at there is, let's be honest, last season was her breakout season. She's got to a point where she was injured. Obviously, my first women's game was the Leicester away game. We won 3-1. And that was almost like her return, I think, that game from a massive injury. So I feel like we do have to temper it a little bit with the fact that she's just had an absolutely unbelievable year. She was in a battle for the top 3 that ended on the last day of the season, and then she went on to great heights with England to go off and win the Euros. So I think when we look at it that way, it's huge what she's done. But equally, I also think we need to just sort of temper what we're saying a little bit and think about, are you buying the finished product? You're absolutely not. We talk about Ona saying she's got the ability to progress more. She has, but look at the level she's already at. With Russo, we see it more often than not. She's scoring some amazing goals at some really important times as well. Like that goal against Arsenal, just absolutely unbelievable. To do that in the time that she did it, absolutely unreal. So really, really pleased with how she's performing and what she's doing. I think it's really important we try and keep her, because I think her potential is still yet to be tapped, and I think that she's going to be something very, very special. But Charlie's really made me think, really made me think. It's very rare, actually, that I sit here and don't feel like I'm fully in control of my thoughts and feelings. But genuinely, would she walk in and start at any other club? And I've never looked at it that way. I've always just looked at it as though she's a United fan. Why would you want to go anywhere else? Graham makes great points about her wanting to win things. But would she walk into any of those? I mean, we watched Lauren James leave. It took a while for her to be able to get picked in the Chelsea side. Is it a case of she's going to have to do that? And would she be able to? Or does she end up, having to drop down again? Would it be a poor decision for her? So I think there's so many, like you said, factors that need to be looked at. But I think the key thing here is potential. It's not a guarantee with Alesia at the moment like it is for potentially other players. So, yeah, I'd like her to stay, though, definitely, if possible, please. If the money stretches.
Yeah, this is going to rumble on, I'm sure, all through January, and it's not going to end there, I'm sure, because I can see, well, they will both stay past January, I'm sure. Somebody can clip that and come back to me at the end of January if you don't believe me.
Well, then it's the World Cup. Then it's the blooming World Cup.
Well, exactly. And that's why when, Graham, you mentioned about pre-contract agreements in January, that's why I think that plays a factor in this, because of the World Cup being so close. Obviously, there's a bit of a gap, obviously, to the end of the season, but players' focus shifts then. So we might see some of these deals being already agreed. It might not be public knowledge at that point, but privately, players, clubs can go to Russo and to Ona and to other players that are out of contract and say, right, we'll agree it now, and you join in the summer type of deal. So that's potentially an option that we might see as well. It just might not be announced officially until later on in the season, maybe. I'm not too sure. I
think the big benefit is the fact that I believe, I don't know this for certain, but our agent is a family member. And I think, does anyone really truly like agents when you're a football fan? No, we're meant to hate them all, but I think if it's a family member, he's going to make sure that he does it in the best interest of her, and it's going to be for the right reasons, I think, isn't it? In terms of, it's not going to be just how much money can we bleed. It's going to be making the right move for them. And I think that could play into Manchester United's favour as well, because if the right move is staying at Man United, then you're going to have no one in the ear going, oh, go on, just make the move, because I'll make millions and millions of pounds. And that's probably a big benefit. Although I don't know. I mean, I don't know her agent or them personally. I just believe it as a family member, and I'm sure they'll have the best interests for Alesia at heart.
Yeah, for sure. I'm sure we're going to cover Russo a little bit in the next thing, because we're about halfway through the show. If you haven't already, there's loads of you watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribe, by the way. So that would be greatly appreciated. But we're going to move on to your other article, Graham, that you put out, I think it was last week now, about 5 players Manchester United. I put could in the title because I think some people read that and thought, right, we're interested in all of them. And as I'm sure you'll hear from Graham, that there's not as concrete interest in all of these as some people might think. But it is could sign. And the first player on this list, obviously, Beth England, is a player. Nancy's mentioned it, which has come on. A few other people have mentioned it. Rob's mentioned it. And, that is a potential. If Russo is to go, that could be an option, because she obviously wants to start games. She wants more minutes. She would get into our side. She would start. WSL experience already. So go on, Graham. Talk to us about the first name on that list, Beth England.
The Beth was definitely more of a should than a could. And there was a lot of people just randomly tagged my name and stuff and said that I'd linked all of them to the move and they were all going to happen. And I was giving them, and it's not an exclusive, it was just my own thoughts, really. But Beth has historical link to Manchester United when Casey was here, or there as it may be. And it just made me think, I think Beth England needs a move, if I'm completely honest. And I think she's, for me, I wasn't heartbroken because we won the Euros, but I felt really sad that she didn't get on during the Euros, because I think she's worthy of getting into the Lionesses team. I think she is still one of the best English strikers that's currently at WSL, and I think, she's not really getting game time. She's making sub appearances here and there. I think she's made 8 appearances in total, which is not bad. I mean, she's actually getting on all of the time, but exactly, she needs more playing time for the World Cup play. She didn't get in the last England squad. And I know Serena will be looking at stuff like bringing in Katie Robinson, which we'll come on to, and other younger players coming in, like Jess Park's an option, like forward, although not a direct striker like Beth England. But Beth England needs game time, and I think she'll get into any team outside of Chelsea. And I do think she'd be an upgrade on, even if Russo stayed, I think she'd be an upgrade on and what you've got. No offense to Martha Thomas, I feel terrible saying that as someone who lives in Scotland and really promotes Scottish women's football. But she would be. Her stats indicate that. And I think Beth needs a move, but there's no concrete link to that apart from historical in the past. That was more of a should as opposed to a could. But I think if Beth England signed for you on the January the 1st, I don't think any of you would be like, oh no.
Well, let's get Charlie's opinion first, then we'll go to Barry's. What do you reckon? Beth England I think somebody's put it in the chat, Lanzell. Beth is a 15-goal striker. She was on loan. So what do you reckon to that one?
Oh, I'd love to have Beth England. I think she's an outstanding footballer, and like she's probably the closest style of player to prolific striker we could hope to get. To potentially replace Russo or Pusher to provide that competitive edge. I think she's brilliant. I also can't believe she's not like 50. I feel like she's been around for ever. I think she's only late 20s, isn't she? That's horrendous, that age, like 7 or 8 years younger than me. Disgusting. But yeah, she's an amazing footballer. And I would take her in a heartbeat because she will score double figures goals for us easily. And she doesn't play for Chelsea, not because she's not good, but because Chelsea have got all of the best players in the world. They've got, haven't they, in their squad? And like Jessie Fleming is another example. Doesn't kick a ball as much as she should do. So yes, Beth England would always be. I think there was talk. I remember we talked about this in the summer. Like, would you have Beth England? And I was like, yes. Always, the answer to that question is yes, because she will always score goals. She's so good.
Well, it's interesting to say that. Let's go to someone who I think might have the opposite opinion in Barry and CD has mentioned set pieces about Russo's aerial threat and that Beth England maybe wouldn't dominate set pieces as much. Is that the only factor that we should be signing? I feel like Barry's going to hold up I thought you were writing something down to hold up on a piece of card there. But...
No, not at all. So listen, the Euros happened and I can remember being sat here on a show even before the Euros, telling the world, telling Serena more importantly, because she was the one that needed to listen, that she needed to bench Beth England and play Alesia Russo. Serena Wiegman, as you know, immediately then picked up the telephone, rang me at my home phone number. We had a nice conversation. And as a result, England won the Euros. So, I mean, I'm not bragging, but...
I can't believe you've still got a landline.
Listen, it's required. It's a bit like the bat phone, but it's only for important people. You know, so only important people have that number, Connor. And I'll leave you to consider whether you're an important person or not. But no, listen, I think Alesia Russo is a better player than Beth England. That's all I was saying when I had that conversation. If you're telling me that Alesia Russo leaves the club, do we get Beth England to replace her? Yes, we could. But in my eyes, that is a step down. It's not the same level as Alesia Russo for me personally. I'd prefer that we were looking better than that, but it wouldn't mean for 1 second that I would be against having Beth England. I just don't necessarily think she is the level of Alesia Russo. Just an opinion. Don't kill me for it.
I don't think many fans will disagree. I don't think it's certainly not an upgrade. I wouldn't say if Russo goes and England comes in, I don't think we've upgraded. I don't think it's a big downgrade. It's definitely slightly down, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, not a big one. No, not a big
downgrade. I don't think it's a big drop. Which
what about both? Because Marc Skinner's talking about building this team up, and I mean, compared to Chelsea and Arsenal, who are their rivals for winning this league, which is what he'll want to do, the strike force is not as good. For me, I agree. I think Russo's better presently and has more about her. But Beth England will always score goals. I agree with Charlie. She'll always score goals. She'll score goals till she's 34, 35. It's just inbuilt. And she can score them from anywhere, head, feet, out the box, inside the box. I think if you add her to the squad and say, look, we're going to play you and Alesia. If Alesia goes, obviously you're number one. Together, why not?
It's an interesting shout because we had Brun with us for a bit and didn't. Well, injuries played a big part, so we didn't really see. We tried both. We did try them both together, but it seemed like Russo got shoehorned out to the wing when that happened. And I don't really want to see that again, personally. Mm-mm. But I think I always bring up Chelsea as an example because I know, Charlie, you mentioned a couple of players that don't play, and Beth England's one of them that doesn't get many minutes, but she does play And Chelsea are absolutely stacked. Even their youngsters, there's so much talent there. So it can be done. Obviously, injuries aside, but
she only played like a bit part for Chelsea really last year, but she still scored like 10 goals or something. Like it's not like it's that. I think there's sometimes this mentality of, it's either or. Like it needs to be this player, and if we've got this player, we don't need that player. It's like, but like what Graham was saying, if you look at the teams we're directly competing with, apart from maybe City, who've had a big turnover in the summer, Arsenal and Chelsea, it's just like a conveyor belt. Well, they're injured, no problem. We'll just pop this player there instead. Oh, they're injured as well. No worries. We'll just bring in the Canadian captain. Oh, she's injured. Not a problem. Lauren James, up you come. Like we're still in a position in some areas of the pitch where, like, if Russo's injured again, because she's a little bit injury prone, if she was to get another injury, we were struggling a little bit. The same way with Ona. Ona was out and we're struggling still in some areas, and that's the difference. But it's about the project, isn't it? It's building the project, and it's about getting in the Champions League, and it's having those opportunities where those players know they're going to get those opportunities to play.
Yeah, I felt this was the question. Sarah's got a great point for me. That's it. Who would be the same level of improvement on Russo that we could realistically get? And I think that is the telltale sign, and a lot of that might depend on where we finish this season.
That's what I was going to say. I wonder if Champions League would open the floodgates for us, because Manchester United is Manchester United, and we can be arrogant about it because they are. And I wonder if we get Champions League, if the club want to back the coaching staff and the manager, the floodgates would open potentially there.
No, it's a fair point. That's why we always have these discussions about kind of season defining almost where we finish this season, because so many questions can be asked wherever we finish. I think this season. We'll move on to the second player. Unfortunately, I'm not going to attempt to say the surname. I'm going to let Graham do that. Hannah, the fullback from Hacken. I'll let you explain that one and have a go at the pronunciation for the surname for me.
I'm terrible at Scandinavian, and I think it's Vike. I think the W is a V.
Before we went live, I think that's
it. Yeah, I believe so. There's interest there. I think other people have pointed out. I don't think I was the first to kind of know that, but I think it's weak interest. I don't think it's that strong, if I'm completely honest with you. But she's young. She can play at right back. And a few people said, oh, well, she's never going to get another honour. But that's not the case. You need someone to play at right back as a backup.
But that's that thing, isn't it? Oh, we've got honour, so don't get that player. Like, it's... Why not?
You need a backup. I mean, I don't think... I mean, I know you can push Maya to right back, but for me, the big problem comes in when you start shifting things around. I think if I had a conversation the other day about Man City and the fact that they don't have a replacement for Bunny Shaw, and someone said, "Oh, well, you can play Dana up top, or you can play Chloe Kelly up top," but then you're moving things about. Yes, Maya can fit at right back if you have an injury crisis, but she's fine alongside Millie Turner. For me, Maya's been one of the best players this season. I think she's been outstanding. I think she's been a brilliant signing. Don't put her out to the right back position because you have nothing else when you can bring in a right back. Yes, you're going to struggle to say, well, to a very good quality right back, come in and play back up to the best right back in Europe at the moment. Like, no one's going to really do that. So I think you probably are looking in that sort of market. So it doesn't surprise me that they were looking at her, but I do have a feeling that, and I don't have any names, they might be looking at someone a bit more experienced. But I know that at some point she's been on the radar, and I don't think I've been the only one to say that. That's why she was put in the article in particular, because I think she'd been mentioned previously. And 100%, they need a backup fullback, probably at both sides, I think, in my opinion. For me personally, and I'm going to get shocked here with Dog Do, because I got hammered for even the suggestion. It was a suggestion based on Mark's previous signings, but Sarah Malin's statistics stand right up. And I know people don't like that, but if you're looking for someone who's happy to sit on the bench, would she make the move from Villa to occasionally play for Manchester United? I think she would. Personally, I think she's a decent enough signing. And I know you've got your Arsenal and your Chelsea that stockpile like the world's best players. Manchester United are just not there at the moment. And you need someone who can play right back if something happens to Ona, or if you want to give a rest to her. Don't push Maya Letitia at right back. So I think you need to be looking in that kind of area for those sort of players. And it depends whether you want to go with youth, like with Hannah Vike, or someone who's a bit more experienced, like Sarah Millen, who's got good stats and is doing quite well in the league. Do I think both of them should get in the first team? No. They were very much suggestions, and obviously Hannah Wright was a link that I think would be decent enough backup, which I think you need. I think everyone who supports Manchester United, as far as I'm aware, since I've covered Man United, has told me you need backup fullbacks, and I agree from watching that. I was at the Durham game. You need backup fullbacks.
Yeah, I agree. I think Hannah, I will just say, I don't think United are the only club. However strong the interest, there's definitely other clubs around Europe that
100%.
That are after her. So I'd keep an eye on the name for sure, because I wouldn't be surprised if she goes to the WSL. Where that is, that might be United, it might be someone else, but I'd keep an eye on the name. That's for sure. You mentioned Mailing there, Aston Villa. What, Charlie, Barry, I'll come to you two first. What do you reckon on that one? Are we seeing that as Graham said, there was a lot of stick for the suggestion of that signing. Lanzell's put the opposite fullback, and that's the one I'd go for in Maz Pacheco. But
4.8 for Old Trafford.
One game. I'm going to make this signing happen.
Joe, I sent you a picture of our notes because I wrote notes about all of them. She was at Birmingham with Skinner. And it's fairly normal. I think lots of managers get in a couple of players that they know, that they trust. You see that everywhere. And I think she would be good. Like, we're talking about fullback cover here, because like I said, Ona's the best in the world. And Hannah's been phenomenal. She would be good fullback cover. Would she be good enough as a replacement were Ona to leave? I would say no. But then who would be? But as fullback cover, she potentially would be a good shout.
What do you reckon, Barry? Do you think it is just about cover rather than replacement for Ona potentially if she was to move on? Do you think that's what, with the two names mentioned there, obviously Charlie said there, previous working with Skinner and things like that, is that what we're looking at here? Because we don't know, obviously, with the future with Maria as well for next summer as well, that potentially she looks like she might be on the move as well. So what do you reckon? I guess my question is, do you think they're suitable backups if those two are the players we're going for? And how many fullback do you think it is just one that we need, or do you think we need multiple?
Well, I think the key thing here is that the topic discussion is fullbacks and January. And if we're talking about January, then simply put, we need fullbacks now. And 100% I would take Sarah Maiden in a heartbeat, I think, for that, because we're looking at backup. And I think that is the key thing. We know that they're not going to get rid of Ona. It's highly unlikely they're going to move Hannah, who's having a fantastic season so far this season. Charlie and I were speaking about it the other day. Actually, she's having a blinder. So I think those two are the main fullbacks. There's no dramas about that. We know that Thor can play there. We know that Maya might play there. But regardless, they're not really playing there, are they? And I think that's the big problem. We don't really have anybody else who can go out there and play. And I think that's the drama. So, would I take this Hannah girl? I don't know her. I'll leave it to much more intelligent people like Graham to tell us whether or not that's somebody
Ashley
who
Lawrence
could come play Ashley Lawrence. That's an interesting
I love
one.
Lanzell's mindset. I just love this off. We're the best. Get the best.
To be fair, it wasn't Ashley Neville. And I agree with that. In which case, I think if Lanzell's telling us we need to go and get the best, then we don't go to Maz Pacheco, do we? So,
come off it. Come on.
Come off it.
4.8 foot mob.
Tiger.
Here we go.
Whoa. Sorry, Graham. We're just going to have a moment here. Are you telling me that outside of the fullbacks that are going on, that the best fullback in the league is Maz Pacheco?
No.
Well, then that's not the best,
it's an obtainable player who would, I think, push Hannah on the left-hand side.
Can I play devil's advocate a little bit? It can be a bit weird. Like, it can be like, if you are a defender who plays for a team that concedes, I don't know how to word this. Like you can be a good player, because Maya is a really good footballer, isn't she? We can all see that now. But she played for a Brighton that have struggled quite a lot for many years.
Some might argue that means they get more practice.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So they're going to make more blocks, going to make more clearances, because they're going to those stats are going to be higher. But I don't know. I've lost even the thread of what I was trying to say, but I was just trying to say it can. I don't know.
Here's a great suggestion.
when you sit and you think about a Russo, a midfielder, any of those sorts of people, you can come up with quite a few names for people who you might like to choose to come and replace them. I think the biggest drama we have is that nobody can think of somebody to replace them, because there isn't one, and nobody can think of one really to properly replace Hannah Blundell. And I think that's the drama. So at the moment, we're kind of going down the Diane Caldwell route of potentially getting somebody in who we know we can trust to help us on the fullback situation.
Yeah, I agree with that, to be fair.
I have a suggestion for all of the problems. Left back and striker, Rachel Daly.
Oh, Graham, you can come back, mate. That's a great idea.
Fixed.
I mean,
You're
there is
welcome,
room
Mark.
for another brilliant Rachel in our ranks. We could squeeze another one in.
Yeah, why not? If she's not playing at left back, stick her up front. If she's not playing up front, stick her at left back. Be fine.
To be fair, that's never been mentioned. I like that. It's a possibility.
I like
it's not really, but
I like the Ashley Neville suggestion, because I've, as you can see, modelled my hairstyle on her this evening. So I finally found a way that my hair would sit correctly for once, because it was, I don't know if anyone's noticed during the show, but it's been this way the whole way, and I've thought it looked like a helmet, so I've decided to change it back to this way, and now I'm comfortable, and now I'm happy with it. So I hope the viewers are too.
It's been a long time since I've had to worry about where my hair sits. So I just sit there and wonder if my beard's still all right, or did I have any pizza left in it? That's about as bad as I get.
I wasn't going to mention it, but
Only for later.
My hair's so long now; it's going to be at a top bun in a few months' time. But there we are. Sang's come in with the score 7 out of 10. That's pretty average, to be fair. That's usually, it's slightly higher. Usually, when it's just the three of us, it's like 5 or 6. So you've upped it, Graham. So that's a positive.
Style.
Deborah's joined. Charlie, you're in for a rough ride now. Deborah's here because she's going to pick on you, I'm sure, for the rest of the show.
Rachel Babley, your mate as well?
No. Rachel Williams is the best Rachel. Who's got the best goals per minute ratio? Rachel Williams. She's played about 8 minutes and she scored 3 goals, or however many it is. She's done the job she was brought in for.
No, I agree. And I was trying to bring up this comment. It's, it's something that a lot of fans talk about signing unknowns, I guess, hidden gems. I wish I looked more into last players, some pretty good Colombian players, I think, would fit into the team. I couldn't probably name you a single one. Personally, I don't watch enough of them to give a fair opinion on, so I won't.
There's
but
some
it is
really good Portuguese players. When I watched the Netherlands against Portugal at LSV in the Euros, Portuguese, obviously the Netherlands are just full of litter with world-class players, but Portuguese looked really, really good. Like really direct, quite short. Maybe that's why I had an affinity for them. But really good and direct with the ball at their feet. So yeah, it's a fair point, isn't it? We're just, in our heads, I think we're often just thinking about, right, how do we get Ada Hegerberg? How do we get her? How do we get Beth Mead? How do we get Sam Kerr? And the truth of it is, we probably won't. So it's maybe a fair point. Like United went to Portugal and got Bruno Fernandes, probably the best signing in years. So it might be worth looking at different places. There's
definitely that. I do agree. There was a comment about German international, German, just anyone from Germany. I think we need some Germans in our squad personally, but there we are. I brought that comment up. Graham, how many likes is it going to take for you to change your Twitter handle to that?
To change my Twitter handle to helmet. Well, the way that Elon runs this thing these days, I think if I change my name, I think I lose my non-paid for verified blue tick, which means that I'm important, right? Apparently. So maybe I'll change it because I hate it. It's a poison chalice.
There we are. Let's get back to the list. And there's 2 more players on this list that we wanted to talk about. I don't know which one to pick first. Who should we go for? Let's go for the name that I can't say. And Graham, I'll come back to you first on this one. There was talk of it. Now there's not. It doesn't seem like anyway about Justine from Reading. All I got when I asked a couple of people, I said to these guys backstage, all I got was she's very tall. That was the only attribute somebody could name. No, not these guys. But when I asked what her qualities were, that's the answer I got of somebody. So
yeah, she's tall. She's from what I've seen of her, which is minimal. I've watched her more for Belgium, weirdly enough, than I have for Reading. She's probably someone who would fit into a number 10 spot, but she's not really done loads at Reading. She's neat on the ball. She obviously sees a pass, but we're talking about Man United's project, and for me, I didn't I didn't really get the link. I think it was the summer. I think a Swedish paper mentioned that she was linked. I put it in the article as someone who was linked and thought, well, there was a strong link there. And I thought, well, she can maybe be a backup option again as, compared to what she's got, because she's not going to get in the head of Ella, which is probably where she would play if she was to play. And there's probably other options that you could put there as well. But I think Louise Wilkes from the Manchester Evening News, great journalist, by the way, if you want to follow, you should. She asked him outright about Justine Van Havermaet, I think, or Van Havermaet, I think it's pronounced. And he was just like, no. And then after that, I got a couple of messages saying, I think it was more a case of maybe the agent is looking for people who had previous interest because the contract's up in 6 months. Naturally, you look after the player. And I think Man United had a historical interest in the summer. Obviously, that interest is not going to be followed up. Me personally, I know I put it in as a could as opposed to a should. I was struggling to find reasons why I thought should as opposed to could.
Is there? I was going to come to you, Charlie, but you've.
No, it's fine.
You go for it. What do you think? That's the kind of signing that we should be looking at? I know, obviously, Marc Skinner's played this down big time now, and everything else. But just obviously talking about it as it's on this list. What did you think when you saw that name?
Well, the first thing I thought was, who is this? I'm going to be completely honest with you. But there isn't the same access to this information, is there, as normal? Then I saw she play for Reading, and I was a bit biased in a poor way. But I just, if her position would be central midfield or as a number 10, we're stacked there. This is the one place where we're overrun with players. Grace Clinton's not even getting in the squad, and she's another one that could be there. You've got Toon, you've got Leon, you've got Russo could probably drop there. You've got Zellum, you've got Ladd, you've got Staniforth, you've got Vilder if she stays. I'd find it bamboozling. I'd be baffled. I'd back her if she put a red shirt on, of course, but I'd be bamboozled if in a transfer window that was where we were looking for someone at that age with that type of particular career that they'd have. Strange. It would be a strange one.
Yeah, I mean, Barry, the question I had written down for you and Charlie's kind of covered it there. Do we need midfielders? And there is a comment from Lanzell, which Graham will come to you to in a second. But surely that's the one place we don't need a player right now is midfield.
Okay, well, I've been trying to listen to Google for the last 2 minutes to work out how you say it, and apparently it's Havermaet. Justine wow. From Reading. We don't want her. I don't think she plays like Charlie just said. She plays for Reading. And they're struggling at the moment to get a point. I'm not feeling it. I don't know her, so I can't really comment on her enough to be able to say whether we need her or not. Whether we want her or not. But do we need her? At the moment, no. For me, the only reason we would need to sign another midfielder potentially is if Vilder Boerisa does leave. If Vilder goes, then potentially there's a gap there that you might want to fill. I tried TJ. I failed dismally. It's definitely not as good. Listen, I can play it. I don't know if it'll work. You guys might hear this. Let's try it. Here we go.
Justine Van Havermaet.
That's definitely not how you say it.
So that's how you say it if you're a robot.
That's really hard to get into a chant as well. So it's probably another no from me.
Isn't it? Yeah. So that's a tricky one. It's a very tricky one. But yeah, I there's plenty of people that can play there. I'm quite happy with Zellum and Ladd. Zellum and Ladd are the top two for me. They're the ones that are going to start week in, week out. Should be anyway. I think beyond that, we do have other players that could do there. I don't think midfield is the place we need to be looking. Like I say, for me, January, all I want to see is fullbacks or a fullback, just another defender. Apart from that, don't really feel like we need too many more.
No, it's a fair point. And Graham, the question I was going to throw to you was: Do you think there'll be any midfield departures? Now, the big one, obviously, people know that I've brought this up quite a few times on this channel about Vilder, and there's certainly links, there's certainly interest, I will say, from other clubs across Europe. So, do you expect to see any departures in midfield? Like I said, I mentioned Vilder, but is there anyone else that you think could be on the way out, if any?
Short or long answer?
you can do both. It's totally up to you.
Short, no.
Fair enough.
Long answer. I mean, obviously she wants to play more, doesn't she? Wilder wants to play more. Of course she does. Very good player. Me personally, I think if you've only lost one game in the first 10 and beat Arsenal, you keep the team the same, and it's hard to put her in. But then she comes in and she scores goals. She's obviously very, very talented. But I think she can be patient. She's obviously part of the squad. Mark said numerous times how much he rates her. And he does. And you know what? I know managers can speak. And this is only from my opinion. It might be different. But from the times I've spoken, which has been a lot recently, I feel like when Mark speaks, he speaks it long. He gives big, long answers and really roundabout ones. But I don't think he talks crap. So I think when he said, that was my cat, by the way. If you can hear a big meow, that is my cat. Nothing else to worry about. But if he...
I thought it was your computer trying to explain Justine's name there.
I was terrified for a moment. And I remembered I have a cat. But I think for me, he does rate her. He means that. I don't think he's saying stuff like yada, yada, yada. I think for me, if there's going to be one, you're probably looking at, as Andrew says there, Jade Moore standing fourth. I can't see them being offered new contracts. Will there be potentially an option for them to go in January to another club? I really rate Lucy Staniforth, but that's maybe because she was one of the first players that I ever saw when she was back at Sunderland back in the day with Kira Ramshaw in midfield. But for me, I don't think so. Not at this moment. At the end of the season, I think maybe there was another article. Klein, bit of a go read my article moment there, but about all the contracts that people that are going out of contract. Obviously, my opinion is Lucy Staniforth and Jade Moore will not be offered new deals. I don't need to go into that. I think you know why they're not getting in the team. And he's talked about the project. I think Vilda could still get in the team, and she could still become really important. And I think he'll be telling her that. I don't think you're going to be looking at a player like that and going, I don't actually rate you that much. He'll be explaining in great detail why she's not in the team and guaranteeing her that she's important. If there's going to be any departures this January, surprisingly, I think the one player that wants a few more guarantees, and she did herself a lot of good on Sunday, would be Adriana.
Oof, that's a name I didn't think I'd hear.
I think she wants guarantees on playing. I don't think she'll go. And obviously, this is prior to Sunday. And she's went and banged in 2 goals. The first one, tremendous. So maybe that has completely changed. But I think she'll want guarantees. You know, she hasn't played very much since she's come in. It's been sporadic at best. And I think she'll not want to come to a club and not play very often. Where she fits in is another question entirely. We can discuss that till we're blue in the face. Her as a player will feel like she's good enough to get in that team and want to play every week and feels like she scored 2 goals on Sunday. She'll want to know where her future lies. I don't think she'll want to go anywhere, but I think she might want a few more assurances that she's going to get more minutes than she got in the first half.
It's a fair point. Something we've debated a lot, that her minutes in particular. I think, you're looking at Barrisa, you're looking at a couple of players, but Leon's the one for me that, not coming on as soon as maybe she should. I just wanted to shout out Tatiana here. I hope I've said that right. Because she's given some great names in the chat who I've not heard of, and I've got to be honest. But as TJ has replied to you, it's great to have you here because we don't have nearly enough exposure to other countries. So if you want to come on a show, by the way, message your United account and we'll get you on, and you can run through all these players and why United should be signing them, because that would be great to have some insight into other leagues as well. We're always looking to expand on that front. Back to England, and the final player on this list. I can say this one. It's a nice, easy name for me. Katie Robinson, then the young English forward from Brighton. Where did this come from, then, Graham? What's the deal with this one?
Oh, I wouldn't know anything about anything like that. I think there'll be a few clubs looking at Katie Robinson. Young, done very, very scored a lot of goals at the England youth level. Is starting to realise her potential. I think it's 18% of their goals they've scored have been from her this season, which is, they haven't scored that much, and she's only scored 2, but that's quite a big amount when you think about it. And obviously they've had upheaval this season as well, with the management change and stuff like that. I think this would be like an alternative option to a Beth England, maybe a project. And I think Man United will look at players like that. I think maybe Laetitia is slightly different because Laetitia had done it for a number of seasons in a different position. I think one thing I've noticed is, especially Man United, Man City, Arsenal, Chelsea, if there's a link to a player that's fairly far down, sometimes it'll be a case of you don't really fancy it because it's not the big name. But I think the best signing you probably made in the summer was Laetitia. She came from a club that was conceding goals and so on and so forth, and she's really showed her worth. For me, she's been excellent. Just give you an extra. I mean, I thought the way she dealt. People disagreed with me on this, but I thought she was player of the match against Man City. I thought she absolutely bossed Bunny Shaw. Yes, though the goal maybe came from a little mistake from her, but I thought she came up against statistically the best striker in the league at the moment and marshalled her for pace, strength, and everything. So there is value to be had in players like that, and I think I'm never ever going to disagree with anything Serena Wiegman does ever. Period. If she tells me I'm a terrible journalist, I will agree with her. So she thinks Katie Robinson's someone to keep an eye on and look at, then I think she's probably one of the better ones coming up, and she's shown as much. So I think that's probably one of the players that Man United will be looking at and thinking, can we do like what we did with Laetitia, but in that position further forward? She's got time on her side. She's not going to want to come in straight away and be guaranteed time. And again, that was more of a alongside Russo as opposed to instead of. I think it's too soon for her to be the replacement. But I think Robinson's, she's shown she's good enough to get in the England squad and be looked at by Serena Wiegman. So that speaks volumes, doesn't it? And I think she's not going to get in the Arsenal team. She's not going to get in the Chelsea team. And I know that Man United won't players that are going to do that. But I think the likes of Man United, I think the likes of Man City are probably going to be looking at players like that to see if, in time, can she build herself when she's 22, 23 into a player that can really add value. Maybe not this season, maybe not this January, but maybe end of the season, she could be seen as someone that could be drafted in if she continues the same run of form when she's 21. I think she'll be about 21 then. And you start going, well, can we start bringing her in as like the second choice, the third choice, another option? I think they'll be looking at her.
No, for sure. And Charlie and Barry, just get your thoughts on it briefly, because there is another question I want to get to before we look to wrap this one up. But the question I kind of had off the back of this Katie Robinson name, again, I'm not against her. I think she's a good player, and I think, again, adding a good young promising player to our ranks is not a bad thing. But I wanted to throw Grace Clinton into that equation, because we've signed another great youngster in Grace Clinton, and as Charlie, you said earlier, she can't even get in the squad. So obviously it takes time. No one expects Grace to come in and start this season, but I would have expected to see her feature a little bit more. Is there maybe, I don't know, do you think there's room for another good youngster at United at the moment? That's the question I've got for you both on that one.
Yes, I think there is, but I think you need to match that up with players that will also come in immediately and have an impact. It can't just be an endless cycle of young potentials, just because of how important we know getting to the Champions League is for us. And probably, I'm going to have a horrible Alan Hansen moment here, probably just buying a load of young potentials isn't going to get us that as quickly as we want it to. But I'm kind of agreeing. I've originally, when I just put Brighton forward, I put Brighton are awful. Sorry if any Brighton fans are watching. Is she looked at differently because she's an English talent? But again, I would agree. Serena Wiegman is just the best coach in the world in any form of football, the best. So I kind of agree. If she's saying this is one to watch, it might be worth getting in there quickly before somebody else does and perhaps reaps the benefits in a year or two.
Yeah, Barry, and just putting that comment on what we're going to do with Bourne and Barry. Not talking about you.
I'm not going anywhere, mate. I'm staying here. But Tara Bourne, I can't guarantee it. She might. Yeah, look, I think my biggest problem, and this comes with just women's football in general at the moment, is there's not enough games. There's not enough of a breeding ground. I think when you look at the men's game, you look at United as they are in the men's side, we've always prided ourselves on our youth and how we manage to bring them through and how we give them the opportunity to play. I just don't see it so much at the moment with the ladies' side. I know that sounds silly because we heard at the weekend that it was our 13th and 14th call up for Ahern and Barry to be playing. So, you know, in 4.5 years, that's not too bad at all, really. But I do just sort of wonder, you know, you look at some of those, that they're a bit of a one-hit wonder. Solskjaer played, but then off she went. And it's about that longevity, whereas you look at somebody else, I don't know, that's one like Ella, and you're looking at somebody who has been around for a while and has worked hard to get through from a young age. I just think that's the tricky part at the moment. And what you said about Clinton took the words out of my mouth, really, because she's another one of those young players that we brought in. And you've got Marc Skinner saying she's one for the future, and it's not about just playing her in a game, it's got to be the right game. And, you know, if she was injured, then I understand why she didn't play against Sheffield United. If she wasn't injured, then I've got to question how that's not the right game. I mean, it was the biggest dead rubber in the history of dead rubbers. So if you can't play in that game against a championship side, then I really don't know whereabouts you could go. So I think that's the tricky thing for me. It's brilliant. I love bringing in young up-and-comers and people that are going to have that level of potential. But at the moment, the potential that I'd be interested in would be keeping Alesia Russo, because she's got the right sort of potential where she's already at the level and is growing, rather than bringing in someone like Robinson. So I think, again, that's the problem we've got there. I've got no doubt she's probably going to be a fantastic player. But no, I don't really think we've got the space for that at the moment. If we're just choosing players that need to play now, it's not the right move.
No, fair points made on that one. Well, we shall see. I'm sure we'll do another show at the end of January. We might have signed one of these. We might have signed none of them. As I said when we started talking about this little segment, it's a could, really, and with a couple of links or loose links in there as well. There was a comment a bit further up. I just wanted to get, Graham, your quick thoughts on it, on this particular player. Arsenal, I guess, is the one that sticks to mind when I mentioned when you're talking about Davina there. What do you reckon on that one? Do you know any more? Is there any other links?
I think there was interest from Arsenal. I think there is. I think Arsenal have a list though. Pullover's top of it. I'm pretty confident. I think a few people are pretty confident. I think the Telegraph have just confirmed that, which is, I'm guessing, the Dutch version of the Telegraph, which is horrendously ignorant of me, isn't it? But yeah, they've just kind of said something there, and I think Jonas has said no comment. Her agent has just came out and said no comment. So, I mean, make of that what you will. But Davina's a different player, isn't she, in terms of position? So I think there'll be interest there, but there was also interest in Bruin, which was, I think, again, probably weaker than it was let on, but someone's out of contract in 6 months, so there is always conversations and stuff around that. I don't know where I put my hat on that. You know, if you said, like, where would you put your hat, or would you put your house on someone going somewhere? I don't think I would put my house on it, but that's because I'm not a betting man. It doesn't mean it won't happen. I think she'll go somewhere. I don't know whether it'll be Arsenal. I'm not sure. I don't know how much Arsenal would have delved into the transfer window if Miedemar hadn't got injured. I think they could have probably coped without Mead. I don't know whether Arsenal can cope without both. I think, well, he said today, hasn't he, honestly, he wants to go into the transfer window. Do I think for someone like Man United, I mean, it's a nice one to have, isn't it? But I don't know whether she fits into what model Man United seem to have at the moment. She's, 31? I'm not saying 31 you finished, don't get me wrong, and she'll definitely add to it. But I do think Mark likes players he can work with for like over a 5-year period. That's how he strikes me anyway. I think he might want someone a little bit younger.
No, it's a fair point. I just wanted to throw that out there because the question was asked. I did have one final question, but somebody beat me to born there. What about City transfers? Obviously, Alex Greenwood signed a new contract today. That got announced. Obviously, I don't want to talk too much about this on a United channel, but is there anyone going to City that we need to be wary of, that we need to start taking note of what they're doing?
Honor? Sorry. No, I like I said, for anyone who hasn't listened to this, that's a joke. Go back to the start of the show, you'll get my thoughts on that. Listen to it again. And if you can put yourself through me rambling once more. I think for me, Gareth Taylor's a little bit more close to the chest than Mark is. Mark will, like, I asked Mark straight out after the Man City game. I said to him, talked about building a team there. You said you're not done. You said if the right name comes in, I went, well, where do you think you need to strengthen? No, do you have names in the frame? And he went, yep, not telling you, which was quite funny. And I was like, oh, well. But then Mark gave me an answer that is valid, and he laughed about it. We had a joke about it. I think Gareth Taylor's a little bit more close to the chest. You can tell Gareth Taylor's been a Premier League or a Championship footballer at one point. He's had all the media training, and he's very good at keeping things close to his chest. But I genuinely think, and he's been fairly open with this, to be honest, that he's not going to be massively in the transfer market. I think he's talked a lot about wanting to maintain that the team. He said it took a while for the team to gel. He felt he's now starting to see the rewards of the team gelling together, and that's why they've gone on that unbeaten run. I don't think he'll be wanting to change too much too drastically. I reckon 1 or 2 maximum. Obviously, Ona is an opportunity if they can persuade her, which I've got my doubts. I think many people would, because I think you probably wait until the end of the season to see where Man City finish and Man United finish for that one to come to fruition, but don't need to go over that again. I think if anyway, he'll probably look at a striker, because he has mentioned in press conferences that Bunny Shaw he sees as his only striker, but he might potentially think about using Mary Fowler there as well. Yeah. It's not like they're completely not able to use players. Yes, you can put Dana up there. Yes, you can put Chloe Kelly up there. I don't think you'll want to, because then you're talking about changing the team completely. And as I've spoke about Maya Letizia before, I will say Maya Letizia, it's Mayor, isn't it? In terms of that, changing the team around, I don't think any manager likes doing it because they have a team in mind. So I think you might bring in someone that'll back up Bunny, but I don't think anything imminent. I think if Man City went through the whole transfer window, which will be good news for Man United fans considering they're on a conversation, I think if Man City went through the transfer window signing nobody, I wouldn't be surprised. I think, and this won't surprise anyone, I would be not shocked if Angadal departed.
Yeah.
And I think that's just obvious. I know that I thus believe that Laura Coombs is in tentative discussions about renewing a deal because she's been great this season. Aside from that, I think it'll be quite quiet, and Gareth Taylor said as much.
No, that's a fair point. I do have one quick fire question for you all, but very, very quickly, because I know we're try and wrap this one up. One last one for you, Graham, on a non-United transfer front. A player that I'd take at United, actually.
I've heard nothing of that at all. I don't think Arsenal want to lose any players, but if she was, I'm sure she'd fit into a Man United. Great player, really good player. Ian Wright's a big fan. If Ian Wright's a big fan, then everyone should be a big fan, right? But I don't think Arsenal will let anyone go. I can't say that happening.
Not now with the injuries. Maybe before. I think if you had a fit Miedemar and Beth Mead, maybe.
Yeah. They need numbers at the moment, I think.
100%. Cool. Right. The last quick final question I've got for you all then is kind of a two-parter. As this is our first transfer show before the January window officially opens, I want to come to each of you. Man United, how many players would you sign? What positions would you sign? So how many? And how many do you think we're going to? So how many do you want? How many do you think we're actually going to? Charlie, what do you reckon on that one? I should have prepared you all for this one. You're on mute, by the way, so we can't hear what you are saying.
It's fine thinking time. I think we need two. We need two fullbacks. I think we'll get 3 players. I think we'll get 3. I think we'll buy 2 permanent, and I think we'll short term loan someone. I don't know why. It's just what we seem to do.
Barry?
Yeah, I agree. We need 2 fullbacks. We're going to get 2 fullbacks because Marc Skinner ain't no fool. What I would say is that we've done an entire transfer show without talking about a completed transfer that has actually already happened, Connor. I'm amazed you haven't gone there. And that is Charlie's transfer there with her hair. Because she had one out and a new one in. Look at that. That lovely.
I brushed it.
Exactly. It's beautiful, isn't it? Isn't it amazing? Look at that.
I brushed it and I've changed rooms so the lighting's better. That's literally it.
Unreal. Well, I don't know what part of LSD you've got to there, but
Wonder here, horror show. But I've brushed my hair.
Beautiful, wonderful.
Yes.
Graham, what's your thoughts? Now.
I kind of waited and I thought, do I jump into this? So I kind of agree with Charlie, to be honest. I think what do I think you need? As per the article, a right back, a left back, someone that can fill in those positions. If and when I think, I agree. At the minimum, 2 fullbacks at the minimum. And probably, oh God, I don't want to say this because I really like Martha Thomas a lot, but I just think another striker maybe.
Oh my God, I was going to say that, and then I panicked and didn't.
I kind of panicked and said it. I did the opposite. I panicked and just said it. I think you'll get 2.
Interesting. I think.
Yeah, just guesswork that.
Yeah,
mine's all guesswork. I know nothing.
Rob
I hear nothing.
Rob's very good at transfer guessing. If anyone follows him, so you might want to follow him as well. Chelsea fan.
Yeah, good guesser as well. Yeah.
He's a very good transfer guesser. I messaged him that earlier.
Crystal ball, I think.
That's a shout. 3 in, 3 out. I don't know who the 3 out would be though. Certainly not in January. Maybe in the summer.
Crikey, that's a brand new show, that one.
There you go. There's your fans forum sorted, Barry.
3 out, 3 in.
There we are. We shall wrap it up there then. Graham, thanks. In fact, no one guessed your Netflix show. So while I'm getting you to shout out your socials and where people can find all of that, what Netflix show did you appear on?
Sunderland Until I Die.
How did nobody guess?
I am on season 2. I'm on episode 4, I think. And
you are indeed.
It's episode 4. And I am having a go at the much more Netflix famous man Charlie Methven about spending 4 million on Will Grigg, which guess who was right in that situation, that we shouldn't have done that.
And Will Grigg actually came out himself and said that he shouldn't have gone to Sunderland. So, yes.
Sorry, Will.
But he was on fire and people's defences were terrified.
No, he got put out pretty quick. It was like the fire ambulance came as soon as he arrived.
Oh, it's the fire Will Grigg string share.
Mm-hmm.
Move on, Connor, move on.
So if anyone has watched Sunderland Till I Die, season 2, episode 4, you can see Graham's lovely face on there grilling the previous chairman and owner there as well. But where can people find you, Graham? Where's your Twitter handle and things like that to find all your work and things like that?
Well, until Musk kicks me off. I hope he doesn't. Don't kick me off, Elon. I quite like Twitter, actually. Make it better, though, because you've messed it up. If you're listening, I'm sure he's not. It's at Graham Falk, just as my name is on the show there, just all one word. And that's pretty much the only social media I use, to be completely honest. But my work, obviously, I work for the company is National World. They obviously cover Manchester World as well. And in terms of he wrote Charlie there, but I think he meant to write Graham, which is weird. That's not how you spell my name. That is how you spell Charlie.
Definitely come back.
Fair enough. I've lost my train of thought here. So, yes, I write for The Scotsman mainly, but The Scotsman's not always necessarily my sports stuff. I'm a big film fan. If you like films, you can come listen to me chat about films. And a lot of my sports stuff goes into Manchester World, which is part of National World, which formerly was JPI Media, as I'm sure you know. So most of my Man United-based stuff is on there as well. But hopefully more appearances like this, because I really like doing this. I like chatting football at the end of the day, and I think that's why I got into it. And if someone thinks I'm of any value, that's always a really nice, positive thing, especially when the the fans of the show are telling me how good looking I am, despite the fact that they spelled my name wrong.
I was going to say he's doubled down. You look. I can't even read it.
I'm brilliant on that Arsenal video. You know what he means.
I think what he means is Charlie just looks world class when he's sober. So that's where he was getting at, because Charlie is amazing.
Spelled my name wrong again.
Amazing.
I'm not coming back until everyone fancies me.
Is that the requirement now? Well, Barry, you got to pick your fans for him.
Okay, well, nobody's not fancying me for the fans for him. Just pop on. Just have a voice. That's all you require.
Just stare into the camera.
Well, nobody wants it. Charlie does that anyway, I think. So,
I'm not listening most of the time.
Sarah, we've got some more light-hearted. Well, this has been pretty light-hearted, but we have got more, obviously, over the Christmas time. Before I wrap up, I'll shout. So when are we back? Thursday. We would have been back tomorrow, but we'll be doing a show on Thursday now because United Men's obviously back in the Carabao Cup tomorrow at home to Burnley. So no show tomorrow. So we've moved that to Thursday. That'll be the last one before Christmas. It's a bit more of a light-hearted, a bit more of a party theme, I imagine, on that one. We will have some shows in between Christmas and New Year and a couple more specials coming up that we've got planned in. So make sure you stick around for that. We're very, very close to 1,000 subs now. I don't think the dream of hitting it before Christmas is quite possible. I think we're 9 away. So if we can hit 1,000 by Christmas, that would be amazing. If not, make sure you're hitting the like button and subscribe. Make sure you're following everybody here, and especially Graham, for all his transfer articles and things like that, because you are very much appreciated, not just by the United fan base, but by a lot more fan bases as well. So
I hope so. I think, fans in women's football want to see transfer news more, and it's scary when you put it out because there's always a chance things can change. But it's been really nice that, on a serious note, and I don't really do serious, to be honest, that people have appreciated it, especially Man United fans who've been nothing but kind to me. Which would be quite easy to hate me as a Sunderland fan, because I remember a particular game where you might dislike Sunderland fans, but been more than kind. So thanks very much, and thanks for having me.
No worries. And I will end. Thank you so much for coming on, and I will end it with that comment right there. Charlotte's world class, Graham. You are stunning, but you will be better with Barry's haircut. There we go.
There you go. All we got to do, Graham, is just morph into each other. There you go. Look at that. You're a winner.
He's going for the top now. He's going for what I'm tempting here.
It's an absolute disgrace this hair at the moment. I can't believe I came on without any kind of style. Like, what am I doing? Idiot.
I think that the worst thing about all this is that Charlie's been mentioned, I've been mentioned. Connor's just going to be upset now that none of his features have been mentioned. There's got to be something from Connor that we like here. Come on, Rob. Throw it in there.
Thanks to John for saying I'm a canny lad, by the way. Love John. Great guy.
That's too northern for me.
It's so northern, isn't it? Like, I'm so north. I moved further north.
Crikey. I'm not going to keep a wait out to see if I get a positive comment, Barry. I'm not that.
If he doesn't, I'll give you a nice positive comment.
There we go. Oh, see, that's why he's here, just to boost my ego a little bit after as we close off. Anyway, we'll never end this show otherwise. Right, thank you all for watching. Make sure you like the video and subscribing if you are around here, and we shall see you in the next one.